Turn one soul ring.
I mean, you could like go back.
No, it's fine. We already started. Totally fine. It's all good. Hello and welcome to another episode of Turn One Soul Ring, the podcast where we talk about the Commander format and all things Magic the Gathering. I'm Kevin Smith.
And I'm Eric Grenfell.
Today on the show, we'll be talking about the cards in the upcoming Magic set, War of the Spark, that we think will make a splash in the Commander format.
But before that,
yet again, for the third time, they're going to be doing a Mythic Edition for this standard set. So it'll be War of the Spark Mythic Edition. And the cards in this set, well, if you don't know what the Mythic Edition is, it's a special booster box. So it's the normal 36 packs, but 8 of the packs have one premium full art. Well, it's not full art, but they're borderless foil cards. And they're most of them are reprints, but some of them are cards in the War of the Spark set.
correct, yeah.
So some of the big reprint cards that we have here are Jace the Mind Sculptor and Ugin the Spirit Dragon.
I have to say, both these cards are heavy hitters.
And both see Modern and Commander play.
Both of them do, yeah. The only reason I had an Ugin in the first place was because playing Commander, and that card is real cool.
Yeah, I don't. Besides something like this, some kind of supplemental product, I find it hard to believe that we'll ever see Ugin or Jace reprinted in a standard set. I just think they're way too powerful.
Yeah, so this is the only time we're going to get like different stuff here. And these arts, I'm actually really into the art of both Jace and Ugin.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. Jace seeing play in some like control modern decks as well as some like Commander. He's still pretty decent value in Commander as well. And then Ugin we have in the Tron decks, of course, in Modern. And then he's also just a real good card for Commander. You can just do some board wipes and
if you're playing an artifact deck or a Eldrazi deck, you want Ugin in your deck because that is a one-sided board wipe right there. Comes into play with 7 loyalty. Sometimes if you have to, you just -7 and everything that has one or more colors is gone. And they're exiled too, so any kind of indestructible effects, don't worry about it.
Gone.
Exile is the keyword you want to be looking for on removal spells.
You want it back from your graveyard? Nope, it's exiled.
Does it have a color? Nope. It's gone. So we also have Tezzeret the Seeker and Garrick Apex Predator as reprints. So does Tezzy sees a bit of Commander play in artifact decks.
I have one. I do like that card a lot. Yeah. He's just a great tutor to get some stuff out of your deck.
And he also, the untap up to 2 artifacts for +1, that's also a ramp effect. Like I see that as a ramp effect, right? Because if you're untapping
Mana Rocks,
we
talked about,
or if you've already attacked, like it can be a defensive effect if you have artifact creatures. So this new Gideon, we can talk about him now, or we can talk about him when we get to the Plainswalker part of this episode. But I haven't really looked at this card too much. Do you want to?
Yeah, might as well talk about him now.
Yeah, let's talk about him now.
We're here at the Mythics. Yeah. So Gideon Blackblade, this guy is a Plainswalker. He's 1 of anything and 2 white. As long as it's your turn, Gideon Blackblade is a 4/4 human soldier creature with indestructible that's still a Plainswalker. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to Gideon Blackblade during your turn. So the first thing we're seeing with the War of the Spark set is that a lot of these Plainswalkers have just a static ability on them.
And they all do.
All of them do.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we've seen Plainswalkers with a static ability.
So we're probably going to see more in future sets.
They could definitely do that. I would see it being a continuing thing. Mm-hmm. So the thing that's really interesting about Gideon here is that his static ability is his plus abilities on a lot of his cards.
It is, yeah.
So instead of having to use up your turn with one of his abilities, he just is that always.
Which is very powerful.
I think it adds a lot of power to the card.
Definitely.
And then so he has 2 abilities, which is also different for the other mythic rare Plainswalkers.
Right, they have 3 abilities and a static ability.
And a static.
Yeah.
Gideon himself only has 2 abilities, and I think his static ability is just real good.
Yeah.
So for the +1, up to one other target creature you control gains your choice of Vigilance, Lifelink, or Indestructible until end of turn. And then for -6, you can exile a non-land permanent. Getting to that -6, I think, is going to be a little bit tough.
Yeah, that's usually not what you're going to be doing. But,
No.
I mean, this guy for 3 mana, 4 loyalty, and that static ability, and that buff ability on another creature, he's definitely going to see standard play.
Oh.
I don't know how much commander play he'll see.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing, like, Gideon Tribal.
Yeah.
But...
So, like, in Commander, which we talk about a lot, obviously he won't be as played. But I have to say, like, this card is going to be in Standard, hands down. It's just way too much value for what you're getting there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of excited to maybe, like, play this guy a little bit because the static ability is just so good.
Yeah, because, Eric, you play a lot of Arena.
I do actually play a lot of Arena,
Yeah.
so...
Yeah.
Once this launches, be getting myself some Gideons and smashing in there.
Yeah, as long as you have enough, gems in the vault. I don't know how the economy works. No disrespect to Magic Arena. I think it's a great game. It just doesn't run on Mac, so
A little salty.
yeah. No, a little bit. Yeah, I'm fair. I am a little salty.
It'll come.
It'll come. It will be. Yeah. So they we already talked about Garrick Apex Predator. I mean, we didn't really talk about it, but it doesn't see a ton of commander play. I don't know if it sees a lot of play in any format. If any format, it would be commander.
I think
but
his place is commander, being a 7-cost Planeswalker.
yeah, he does have 4 abilities.
It does, yeah.
But I think the price tag on him previously was more to scarcity than how much play he saw.
And he'll still be scarce.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it will be. So we're also getting a Nahiri the Harbinger reprint and a Sarkhan Unbroken reprint. And what formats do those cards see play in?
From all of these cards, the one I have to say that is the most disappointing is probably the Sarkhan Unbroken. I think he does see some commander play, but from playing at card shops and playing in our play groups,
Yeah.
I've not seen anybody use this guy.
I've never seen it. I knew it was a card, but it's there. There are other Sarkhans that are more playable.
Exactly, yeah. Like, because you're 5 mana for 4 loyalty and then -2 just to get a 4/4 token. Like, that's not...
To protect himself.
himself, like, that's not very good value, I don't think. You can do a lot more with the mana on turn 5.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like his ultimate ability, which is -8, search your library for any number of dragon creature cards and put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. That's a powerful effect, but you have to have him alive for 5 turns.
Yeah.
Unless you have
Other ways.
proliferate effects.
But this card is also home in a dragon tribal deck.
Exactly.
How many of those are going to have proliferate to do something as well?
Like counters are not a common thing in dragon decks. They're already so big, you're not worried about counters.
Exactly. So he just seems really like misplaced and like it's just not a very valuable guy.
Yeah, I wonder if in his day he saw very much standard play. Even.
Yeah, that's an interesting question because I was not.
I wasn't.
around.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah.
No, I think that was during my off time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nahiri though, Nahiri saw modern play.
that was the Nahiri from Shadows over Innistrad, right?
You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like. This is an interesting reprint. I actually do like the art here. I have to say on all of them, the art's great. Sarkhan with that dragon behind him looks pretty cool.
They really stepped it up with this art. I feel like the art for Ravnica Allegiance was a little lackluster.
Yeah, I just was not into it at all, and I was just like, in the wind. Meh.
Yeah. This is a pass for me.
And Nahiri is really interesting because we did see, like, she doesn't see play right now, but the main reason you'd use this card, like, she does loot for you for +2. You may discard a card if you do draw a card. Or I should say rummage.
Rummage, yeah.
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 But then you can -2 to exile a tapped enchantment, or any enchantment, or then tapped artifact or tapped creature. But basically people are playing her to +2 to get her to the 8 loyalty to search your library for an artifact or creature card, put it on the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. It gains haste, return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. The popular creature to grab from this would be the Big Mama Eldrazi.
Emrakul, the
Yeah.
Aeon's Torn.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get that cast trigger where you take an extra turn, but you do get that Annihilator 6,
Ooh,
Flying
yeah.
Trample, 15/15.
And it gets haste, so it's attacking right away that turn. So
That's right. And then it comes back to your hand, and you probably don't have the 15 mana to
15
cast her
mana.
to get that cast trigger, but still, you've already pretty much taken care of all their permanents by that point.
Yep.
You're playing this in Modern.
Yep.
Everything's gone.
Everything's gone. And 15 damage is a lot. That's
Yeah, when are they going to bring back Annihilator, huh?
I never. I miss it though.
God, that was great.
The last one.
Well, Rise of Eldrazi was quite a grindy, limited format, and I always enjoy a good grindy limited format. Dominaria was also quite grindy.
It was, yeah. But even like people are saying like Dominaria was one of like the best sets we've had recently. So,
Well, I think they're trying to top it with this one.
yeah.
And then the last card we want to talk about for this Mythic Edition is not a reprint. It's Nickelbolas Dragon God. And I got to say, the art on this card is very old school. And
Yeah.
I love it. Like, even older than when I started playing. This is it's almost like crayon.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's very, very cool.
It's kind of like it is a nice mix of old and new because it is like the borderless card art. But
Yeah.
it is still like a very like older style art, which looks really cool.
Also, they didn't have Planeswalkers back then.
No, they didn't.
No.
Yeah, we might as well talk about this guy since we're here as well.
Let's do it.
Nickelbolas, the Dragon God. He is a total of 5 CMC, 1 blue, 3 black, and 1 red.
I feel like he should cost more for what
Possibly,
he does.
For what he does, I think so. This card, I do have to say myself, I didn't notice that he was only 5 CMC. I was like, wow, is he good? So Nickelbolas Dragon God has all loyalty abilities of all other Planeswalkers on the battlefield.
So not just yours, everybody's.
Everybody's.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Whatever I want.
Yeah. Now any commander deck that I have Grixis in, this guy's going in there.
Yeah, just slot him in there.
Yeah.
and with 36 Planeswalkers getting printed in this set, we're probably going to be seeing a lot more Planeswalkers on the commander battlefield.
Yes, we definitely will. So the one thing to mention is he has all loyalty abilities of all other Planeswalkers. So he doesn't get the static abilities of the new Planeswalkers in the set.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would
be-
be even broken.
He'd probably have to cost one more colorless mana for that ability.
Only one? His abilities are, so for the 5 mana, he comes in with 4 loyalty. You can +1 to draw a card. Each opponent exiles a card from their hand or a permanent they control. Wow. This is just pure card advantage for +1.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, if they don't have any cards in hand or any permanents, then, they're not losing anything.
Oh, yeah.
So
And this is, I think, like, it does hit Commander where it says each opponent, which is really nice.
yeah.
But I think you will see a lot more value of it in Standard or maybe even Modern.
Maybe.
Yeah. 5 is a lot, but 5 could be your top end. Because if a lot of times in those formats, people don't have cards in their hand, so they're going to have to exile a permanent on the battlefield, and that's when you're getting the more value from the ability.
And when you get to that point in a game in the modern format, you don't often have that many cards left in your hand.
No, yeah. So you're going to have to get rid of your permanents on the battlefield.
Absolutely.
We can -3, and we can destroy a creature or Planeswalker. Sweet. Any problem on the battlefield?
Get rid of it.
Get going. And then the -8, each opponent who doesn't control a legendary creature or Planeswalker loses the game.
I know that a lot of people are going to disagree with me about this, but I really enjoy cards that have that effect where it's just like you either your opponents either lose the game or you win the game. Like Lab Maniac, where if you draw a card from an empty library and you would lose the game, you win the game instead. I really like cards like that, and if you can make them work, then I think you deserve to win.
And I think I can kind of agree with you because like these cards take some building around.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
it's not just like it's not easy to get to 8 loyalty. That's 5 turns doing it honestly.
Yeah.
And then, all the proliferate effects, you can get there earlier, but how much earlier, right? You have to get there on the same turn. I guess you'd have to have a doubling season,
Yes.
but then you're running green.
Then you're running green. So now you're in 4 colors.
And then you have to, no one has a legendary creature or planeswalker.
You have to deal with that as well.
So
There's a lot of stipulations to go by, so I think it is a fair ability. That's pretty powerful.
I think most of the you win the game effects are pretty fair abilities. Like even a card like Felidar Sovereign, which is like 4 and 2 white for a creature. It could be a 4/6, and if that was a card that was printed without commander in mind, even though the format already existed by then, I think it was it was reprinted in Battle for Zendikar, and it reads that if at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 40 or more life, you win the game. But in Commander, that's 3 or 4 turns before your next upkeep. So unless you can cast that card at instant speed, which you probably should, your opponents, if they don't deal with it in 3 or 4 turns,
Then you just win.
you just win.
Yeah.
And that's 4 people, that's 4 hands. They should have something that can deal with that creature, that.
But it is sometimes when a creature like that seems a little unfair in Commander, because you're like, well, you start with 40 health already. You don't have to do any life gain stuff to get there. You're also thinking it is 6 mana for that guy. You should do some combat in the beginning.
You should do some combat. Yeah, I definitely advocate for, if you have like a Sakura Tribe Elder and you play that and somebody's open, just attack them.
Get that 1 damage in.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not making an enemy with 1 damage. You just...
No.
Yeah.
And you can negotiate with someone and say that you're not making an enemy.
Yeah. This is just the beginning of the game.
Yeah. You're open,
Yeah.
It's fine.
All right.
So that's our magic news for this episode.
I do have to say that this is the first one that I have actually wanted to. I'm not going to because it's expensive.
It is expensive.
But I actually do want this.
But at least
it's like it is something that they have made that I'm like, hey, this is sweet.
Right, and it is on their eBay store, so you will be able to get it internationally.
Yes.
Right, because the first set was only North America.
And through the Hasbro store.
And through the Hasbro store, which caused a lot of strife with the Magic community, and rightly so.
So I'm glad that they have changed all of that. It is showing that they do care about their customers in some way. So
yeah,
a
little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the main topic for this show, which is our set review for War of the Spark, and we're
the one and only topic.
That's right. We're going to be doing this in the color pie order. So we're going to do this in Wooburg order. So white, blue, black, red, and green. We're going to start off with the white Planeswalkers. And I'd like to talk about Teo the Shield Mage. So I think this card is going to see play in Pillow Fort decks because any card that says you have hexproof is definitely what you want in a deck like that. And since M19 came out, and with that Arcades the Strategist, a lot of people have been playing that deck in our local meta. I've seen a lot of that. And this card creates walls, creatures with defenders. So, you can -2 and draw a card, basically. And, no one can target you. But I think even this card might see play in Modern as well. Like in a few decks, people sideboard Leyline of Sanctity, which is 2 and 2 white.
It is, yeah.
And you have hexproof, but all the Leylines have an effect that if you have it in your opening hand, you start the game with it on the battlefield. So obviously Leyline of Sanctity is better than this card in terms of granting the hexproof ability, but in Commander...
I also say, people want budget options out there, and so I think this is a good budget option for, an ability like that, so...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I've thought about splashing white in Mono Green Tron.
All right.
For effects like this, because burn will get you.
Burn will get you.
Burn will get you, yeah.
Because in Commander, there aren't too many things that target the player themselves. Maybe if this had, you and... your enchantments have hexproof or something, wouldn't be too broken, but I think it's still an upside.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Maybe creatures would be too powerful, but give us something.
Yeah, give us a little extra. Yeah, and a lot of these, I think all of the uncommon Planeswalkers, they only have minus abilities. So if you don't have a way to proliferate them or add more counters to them, then you're just gonna and a lot of them, the minus ability is not equal, like is not divisible by their loyalty.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, like you're just gonna have to sacrifice them, or just have them get swung into, or they'll just sit there as permanents that maybe you can tap for something.
Yeah, they still have that ability on there, which is really nice. The static ability actually does. It's kind of like an enchantment that somebody can attack. Really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting mechanic.
Next card, I think we should talk about. Not really for the abilities, but there's been some talk around. There is this card called the Wanderer, and it's a Plainswalker. Who is this?
Right. I think it is a lady.
It does depict more of like a woman, I would say.
Yeah. Gender is fluid.
Yes.
But
a lot of people, there is a very beloved character in Magic named Elspeth.
Right. Yes. Could this be her?
That's what some people are saying. They're hoping that Elspeth is coming back.
Nice. So like maybe the next set.
Maybe.
Yeah. If the Wanderer survives the, titular War of the Spark.
Or maybe they will reveal themselves at the end of the story. Who knows? But
yeah,
it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Also, maybe it could be like the player character, possibly.
Right.
Just some, we are in this world.
Yeah.
Presumably somehow.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. She's the Wanderer. Has no like subtype. Like legendary Planeswalker.
Yeah.
Nothing. So yeah, so the Wanderer's 3 and a white, and for a 5 loyalty Planeswalker. Static ability is prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to you and other permanents you control. And her -2 is exile target creature with power 4 or greater.
So it's okay.
Not bad. Yeah, a lot of these uncommon Planeswalkers have a much higher loyalty than what their mana cost would normally dictate.
Because they can't plus it at all. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
So we already talked about Gideon Blackblade,
Yeah.
right?
Shout out to Gideon. The card's good.
It's good. It's gonna see standard play.
So we have some after the Planeswalkers that we kind of wanted to touch on. We got some creatures here that we're gonna get into. The first one being Tomic Distinguished Advocist.
Yeah, Tomic is a 2 white for a legendary creature, 2/3 flying. Lands on the battlefield and land cards in graveyards can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. Your opponents can't play land cards from graveyards. So this is kind of a taxi effect from the perspective of, a lot of decks like Lord Windgrace, which came out in Commander 18, or like the Gitrog monster or Angry Omnath, which all have a lot of lands entering the battlefield from the graveyards. This card stops those players from doing that, and it only affects opponents. So you could build a commander deck around this card, but white just doesn't have a lot of ability to manipulate its own lands and the graveyards. White has some abilities of getting creatures out of the graveyards. It has some sort of regrowth effects, but it's not very good at dealing with lands. Like white's white can put lands in its hand.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's not. It can't do that very well. But this card would be, this card is kind of like a hate bear, right?
Pretty much. The other colors are good at getting, lands out of there, and since white's not, they're like, well, if I can't do it,
nobody can.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, very, very interesting card, and a card that I think we'll probably see slotted into decks that want to stop players from getting value out of their graveyards.
Oh yeah. That's the home for Mr. Tomic. The other interesting white creature that we have coming out would be the God Eternal Oketra.
Yeah, I love this God Eternal cycle. I mean, it's very cool.
They are great. Yeah. We are missing Hazret, which is a little sad, but
right. We got the boar though.
Yeah, we got the boar because Hazret is no more. So
yeah.
So with Oketra over here, she's 3 of anything, and then a white and a white. A 3/6 with a double strike. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 4/4 black zombie warrior creature token with vigilance. And then, as all the other gods read as well, when God Eternal Ketra dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library, third from the top.
So if you're running that as your commander, you can put it into the command zone, or you can put it at the top of your deck and risk, a shuffle effect.
Yeah.
I would probably put it at the third from the top, because how often do opponents shuffle your library?
Very, very little. Or milieu. That does not happen in Commander.
No.
So this is a commander that can keep coming back.
It's not a good strategy. I used to play Fenix, God of Deception.
Yeah.
And I would just do like infinite combos, which was a good strategy, but it's very fragile.
Yeah.
And also if someone has an Eldrazi and you don't have Leyline of the Void,
you're just boned.
Yeah, you're done.
But of course, always coming back, the double strike's really good. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you get another 4/4 with it every time. That seems like good value.
That's really good value.
Yeah. We just have, like all your little creatures will still get you a 4/4. If you have a guy that's, if this is in a deck that has multiple colors, you play like a mana ramp creature, you still get another 4/4 with it. Like, just more creatures on the battlefield for you.
Let's move on to instants. White instants. So the first one we're going to talk about is Ignite the Beacon. Ignite the Beacon is a 4 and a white for an instant. Search your library for up to 2 Planeswalker cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. That's pretty good for an instant.
I'd have to agree that's pretty good for an instant. Any Super Friends deck you're running, if you're in white, this for sure.
Oh, yeah.
5 mana for like 2 Planeswalkers is pretty good value. You still have to obviously cast your Planeswalkers, but you're getting your value cards right away.
Right, because we've seen like in Oath of the Gatewatch, we had Call the Gatewatch, which was 2 and a white for a sorcery.
Yeah.
Search your library for a Planeswalker card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So for 2 more mana, we have an instant that lets us search for another Planeswalker.
Seems like pretty good value.
And then I think in the same set we had
There was another one like Deploy
the Gatewatch. It wasn't the same set. It was a good one. It was from Eldritch Moon so that was 4 and 2 white for a sorcery. This is a bad card. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put up to 2 Planeswalker cards from among them into the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So even in a Super Friends deck, you're probably not running more than, I'd say, the very top would be 20 to 25 Planeswalkers.
Probably.
Anything more than that, and I think you're just going to be drawing a lot of cards that... a lot of Planeswalkers that you'll play get 1 activation off and they'll just get removed.
People just attack them.
You need to have ways to protect your walkers.
Yeah.
So that
Going 7 deep and if we're some way through a commander game, maybe there's even 70 cards left in your deck.
I think 2 is like probably the best you can hope for.
Yeah.
In general. So that's 1 more mana for quite a gamble.
It's a gamble.
And both of these are sorceries. So, Ignite the Beacon, that's a clear case of power creep.
Hey, we still get that.
So I think that's the only white instant that we want to talk about. Let's move on to white sorceries.
Mm-hmm.
Single Combat is a very, very cool card. Single Combat is 3 and 2 white for a sorcery. Each player chooses a creature or planeswalker they control, then sacrifices the rest. Players can't cast creature or planeswalker spells until the end of your next turn. So I really like this card because, I like to play Voltron strategies in Commander sometimes. And, Voltron is, it's based on that Japanese show where all those robots would morph together so they'd be super strong and could fight the bad guy. And in Commander, when we talk about Voltron, we take a commander that we strap a bunch of auras to, or equipments, or just buffs so that they can swing in for one-shot kills for 21 plus commander damage. And what single combat does is, if you only have one creature, it's not hurting you. Right?
You're fine.
Exactly.
Good to go.
And then no one else can affect the board with creatures or planeswalkers until your next turn. So that's going to give you the ability to, first you cast this before combat, then you swing with your Voltron commander, take out a player, and no one else can play creatures until their next turn. I guess they could play tokens.
Yeah.
And then on the next turn, you can swing again and take out another player.
Yeah.
And by then you only have to deal with one player. So that's very much a corner case, but that's why I like this card. Like, I think I might slot this card into my Sigarda Host of Herons deck.
That's actually really interesting. I did not think of it in that way. But this card I thought was pretty much bad.
Yeah.
Because if you are playing a deck where you want to like cast creatures or something, it's till the end of your next turn. So really your opponents are getting the more benefit out of it because it's going around again.
Exactly.
But a Voltron deck, this card slips right in there.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But otherwise, yeah. And I think a lot of Voltron cards, a lot of cards like this are, bad.
Yeah,
but
pretty much,
it's like, but also a Voltron strategy is not the best strategy in Commander.
Yeah.
And I think we all know that from experience or from people telling us.
It can still be fun.
It can be very fun.
Yeah.
Strapping a bunch of big stuff and make a creature big. That's right. Yeah, just smash.
All right. The next one that we can touch on here is Finale of Glory. So this is part of. Is this part of the cycle?
Yeah, it is.
It is. Yeah, it's part of the finale cycle that we have in the War of the Spark set. And so, Finale of Glory, it is an X and 2 white. And so we create X 2/2 white soldier creature tokens with vigilance. If X is 10 or more, also create X 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance. So this card, we pay 12 mana for in total. Not only are we getting 10 2/2s, we're getting 10 4/4 angels that also have flying and vigilance. That's just a lot of creature power onto the deck or onto the table for this one card.
Yeah, also if you have Divine Visitation on the field, which is 3 and 2 white for an enchantment, if one or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead. So then all those 2/2s become 4/4s to go with your other 4/4s.
So now we just have 20 4/4 angels on the battlefield.
With flying and vigilance.
All right. Just pray for no board wipe and...
no, there's not going to be any board wipes. You just give them all indestructible.
There we go. That just seems like a lot of power. Obviously, in Commander, we do get to play the big splashy spells. That's why I like this finale rotation. Because we're going to get to do the second unlocks for all these cards where you get the extra value out of it. So it can be some fun.
Yeah, and you're going to save them, unless you're in a pinch, you're going to save them to cast them for that big 10 mana plus.
Yeah, that's the point of the card, is that's when you get the actual benefit of casting the card. I think we have one last
sorcery
here.
Ravnica at War.
And so I thought this was an interesting kind of a board wipe card. So we do see a lot of decks playing, multicolor cards in Commander and such. So if you're playing like a monocolor deck, you wouldn't have to worry about this card at all. But the card does read, it's 3 of anything and 1 white, and you exile all multicolored permanents.
Yeah, the exile is really, really good.
Yeah, so we're not just destroying, but we're just exiling these guys out of here.
Yeah, there's also like another like one-sided white board wipe. Well, it's kind of one-sided. It's similar to this board wipe where it's Mass Calcify, which is printed in a couple of core sets. I think it was M13 and M14. And Shadowmoor, I think, actually, which is 5 and 2 white for a sorcery, and you destroy all non-white creatures.
Ooh.
So, if you're running a mono white deck, you're fine. But if other players are also running white in their decks and they have white creatures, then they're also, going to be fine.
Unaffected, yeah.
Yeah, so cards like this can be good, but you're also running the risk of
people will cast monocolored stuff that you want to get rid of, and this card is just not going to hit it.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I do really like the art on this card.
Yeah, I have to say it's got that nice blue blast going down there, and she's just watching from above.
It's very good. Often the art on board wipes is pretty satisfying.
Good,
It's like that orb of power just destroying everything.
Yeah. You get that big explosion.
So do we have a white artifact here that we want to talk about?
We do actually have a white artifact here.
Okay. That's right. They I think like the vehicles it feels like now that they're kind of going to be an evergreen card type.
Yeah, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so I think what we're seeing was in Kaladesh, in that block, there were vehicles there that were just like too powerful.
Yeah, Smuggler's Copter.
Smuggler's Copter. It was so powerful they had to ban it out of Standard.
They did. They
don't see Standard bannings often.
They don't like to ban things out of Standard.
No, they don't. So on top of that, then we had some vehicles in the Ixalan block. We had some pirate ships and stuff, and there was none to mention.
No, there wasn't.
They went the opposite spectrum, and they're just like, well, these are just useless cards.
Right.
Yeah. So now here we see them doing vehicles, and these artifacts have a color in them. So now not just any deck can pick up this artifact. You have to be running white.
Right.
So it does make a little stipulation there.
Yeah, there's a white one, a blue one, and a red one for the vehicles that they did for this set.
Cool. Also, there's no black and no green.
Nope. But they did do black
Legendary
and green artifacts.
Gotcha, yeah. All right, so getting down to it, the Parhelion 2. It is 6 of anything, and then 2 white. So this card is an 8 CMC.
It's pretty expensive.
Pretty pricey.
But it's probably not going to be very financially pricey.
No. Mana intensive, we should say. But it's got a lot of text going on here. Also for you who don't know how vehicles work, they are a little bit different than other artifacts out there. So the Parhelion, being a 5/5 artifact vehicle, costs 8 mana. It has crew 4. So for this vehicle to actually be a creature, you have to tap 4 power worth of creatures you have on the battlefield to then crew your vehicle, which will then make this artifact an artifact creature.
So if you have like 4 1/1 elf creatures, in your elf deck, not
These
that you
guys can just pile in there. And,
yeah, you just tap them, and then they would crew this vehicle.
Yeah. So the vehicle itself has flying, first strike, and vigilance, all real good. And then whenever it attacks, create 2 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance that are attacking.
That's pretty good for 8 mana.
For 8 mana, I think that's you're swinging for a virtual 13 power.
Oh yeah.
And then after your first swing, it pretty much crews itself because you can use those angels that it created to then crew itself, and it just snowballs.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a really good top end finisher. Definitely a lot of decks in Commander. Flying is evasion. You can just keep getting in there, and I think it's a single threat that can be really strong. Mm-hmm. It does need creatures to crew, but the neat thing is that this artifact itself will avoid board wipes. So if somebody board wipes, they kill your creatures, but you'll still have this on the battlefield. So then you just need to play some more creatures to then keep swinging with it, create more angels.
It's ready to go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to move on to blue now. We're going to do some blue Planeswalkers. First one we're going to talk about is Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. And this is another corner case because you're really not going to run this in a deck that doesn't already have a build around to win the game in this way. I'm probably going to put this in my Azami Lady of Scrolls deck so that I can just have a redundancy with the lab man effect and win that way. And you know, it's other abilities, like his other abilities really aren't that necessary. You know, I'm going to play this on a turn where, you know, I'm going to mind over matter and just win the game like that. So, you know, I don't anticipate this card seeing a lot of standard play.
No.
Or a lot of play in any other format
No.
except Commander. But I do like this card a lot.
Those alternate win cons are fun, definitely. And actually, for myself, I do want to throw this in a deck in Standard and win with a Lab Man effect in Magic Arena. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if like a Lab Man effect in Standard will...
If you can actually win that way.
If you can win that way. Yeah. For sure. Who doesn't like those long Standard games?
Oh, yeah.
You know? Not me. So the next Planeswalker we're going to talk about is one of the uncommon Planeswalkers. It's Narset, Parter of Veils.
The art, yes.
Very beautiful. Yeah, so she is a 1 and 2 blue legendary Planeswalker and she has 5 loyalty. So her static ability is each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn.
I like how it's each opponent.
It's each opponent.
That's sweet.
Doesn't affect you. You can draw as many cards as you want if you control Narset.
Yeah.
And her -2 is look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So I'm not sure if this card will see Commander play. She turns off what a lot of decks are trying to do in Commander, which is just draw a lot of cards. You know, that's how we win. We just have more resources than our opponents. But like the card selection she offers for only 3 mana is very powerful. And, you know, like all these uncommon commanders, if you have ways to put counters on them, you know, you can keep reusing them. And with all the proliferate in this set, you're going to have a lot of ways to do it.
Yeah. And I mean, like, with the ability, since it's just your opponents, you're in blue, you can keep drawing as many cards as you want. You can shut down your other opponents in Commander from drawing cards. Seems pretty good.
Yeah, very good. And another thing about Commander, you know, like, if you can blink these cards...
you can refresh
they
their health,
come back as full loyalty. Yeah. So you throw these in a Brago deck.
Oh, you're good to go. So that's about it for the Planeswalkers in blue. We got some creatures to get into here.
Yeah, so the first blue creature we want to talk about is Spark Double. So this card makes me think of Clever Impersonator.
I think this card's great.
Which is Clever Impersonator is the same mana cost, but Clever Impersonator is 2 and 2 blue, and you can copy any non-land permanent?
I think it's non-land permanent.
It's non-land permanent, yeah. It's not that good. So this card has a less restrictive mana cost, and if you target a creature or a Planeswalker with its clone effect, it comes in with a +1/+1 counter or a additional loyalty counter, respectively. So, for example, if you were going to choose to clone Nissa Vital Force, which is a Planeswalker that has a +1, which has an ultimate that's a -6, and she comes in with 5 loyalty, you could bring her into the battlefield and ultimate her right away. And her ultimate is you get an emblem that whenever you play a land card, you draw a card. So that's pretty good. You know, that's just one example of
I like that play there. That's
how this card could be used.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you think this card is going to see play in other formats besides Commander?
That's a really good question. I think the powerful part about it is that you can still copy one of your Planeswalkers, and you'll have 2 of the same Planeswalker out there.
And this wouldn't blow up one of the Planeswalkers?
So on the bottom of the card, it says it enters with an additional loyalty counter on it if it's a Planeswalker, and it isn't legendary if that permanent is legendary, meaning it does not blow up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something really disgusting I can see coming along is that in Standard, Teferi is running rampant, and this card is blue. So now our opponent's going to have double Teferis out there, drawing cards and putting stuff back in your deck and stuff. So
yeah, Teferi, Hero of Dominaria.
Yes. I do not look forward to playing against 2 Dominarias on the battlefield. No thanks. But yeah, I think even just in Commander, he's got a lot of utility. Cards like that are awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next creature we want to talk about is Flux Channeler. It's 2 and a blue for a human wizard 2/2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, proliferate. So there's that enchantment from, I think it was the second Mirrodin block, and it was Inexorable Tide. It was 3 and 2 blue, and whenever you cast a spell, proliferate. So, you know, this card costs 2 less mana, is a creature, so it's a little more vulnerable to removal. Enchantments are the hardest permanent to remove in, in all of Magic, not just Commander.
Just in general, yeah.
But this card is whenever you cast a non-creature spell, and with War of the Spark and with all these Planeswalkers entering into our format, we're going to be casting a lot more non-creature spells. So, you know, you cast a Planeswalker, you have a few Planeswalkers on the field, you play Flux Channeler, then you play another Planeswalker. All those Planeswalkers are getting more counters.
Your Planeswalkers are pumping up your Planeswalkers.
It's pretty nuts.
Seems pretty good.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good for 3 mana. Yeah.
I think it is like just if you are doing Super Friends in Commander, throw this card in there, hands down. Like,
Yeah, I also think this is going to be a limited all-star. You know,
Yes.
with all the Planeswalkers we're going to see in War of the Spark limited format, I think we're going to see a lot of this. You know, even if you get a few activations off of it, a few proliferates off of it, it's totally going to be worth the 3 mana.
Because we do have those Planeswalkers that don't have plus abilities.
Exactly.
You want to keep them alive. You want to use their abilities again. This is one of those ways to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the another creature we have in blue, getting onto the God cycle, we have Kefnet coming back from Amonkhet.
Nice.
Yeah. This card I think is pretty good. I'm excited for it. I want to play with it. It is 2 of anything and 2 blue. It is a 4/5 flyer. First of all, those stats are nothing to scoff at for a 4 mana card.
Not at all.
Yeah. And so we are reading here, you may reveal the first card you draw each turn as you draw it. So it's not like scrying where you can look at it first and decide or anything like that. You just have to flip it up and everyone's seeing the information at the same time. Whenever you reveal an instant or sorcery card this way, copy that card and you may cast the copy. That copy costs 2 less to cast. And then, of course, being a god, it does have the ability, if it's destroyed or exiled, you can put it 3 cards from the top of your library. So, Spellslinger decks, yes, this card's great.
Yeah, and you could also manipulate the top of your deck with cards like Sensei's Divining Top you know, a lot of other scrying effects.
This card goes great with Sensei's Divining Top. You can always make sure you have like a good card there, and then if it's not a card, you don't have to reveal it either.
Right.
So you still have the information with the Divining Top out there. That's
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah. But yeah, we could name so many spells that you would want to cast again, but you're still getting double value off of everything because that card's still in your hand, and you get to cast that double for 2 less.
Yeah, mana reduction and redundancy. That's what we want in Commander.
Yes. So the next creature.
How do you pronounce this?
Do you want to take a crack at it?
Fibblethip?
That's what I've heard, actually.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
That was my first. That was my first try. Fibblethip the Lost. So he's a 1 blue legendary creature, 1/1. When Fibblethip the Lost enters the battlefield, draw a card. If it entered from your library or was cast from your library, draw 2 cards instead. When Fibblethip becomes the target of a spell, shuffle Fibblethip into its owner's library. So what do you think about this card?
This card, first of all, I've heard in the story, he's kind of popped up in other sets, just kind of like going through. He is just kind of a random orc that's kind of there all the time. Or homunculus,
Homunculus, yeah. That's fun to say.
Yeah. So we just see him randomly in the war going on here, and he's just completely lost. It's kind of funny.
I don't know what I'm doing.
The thing to compare this to, there is a green creature called the Elvish Visionary. And it's one green and one of anything. When it enters the battlefield, you just draw a card. So Fibblethip is kind of the blue version of that. It is legendary, so you can't have multiple of them on the battlefield. But it does have a couple of the upsides. I think the second part of it, where if it gets targeted, you shuffle in its owner's library. No one's going to target this, obviously.
Right. Of
So
course.
whatever.
Yeah, it's not very threatening.
No, not at all. But if you're just trying to get through your deck faster, it replaces itself and it's a 1/1 on the battlefield. We have seen other decks in the past play Elvish Visionary. I don't see why this card wouldn't be played as well. In Commander, I don't really see the benefit of playing this card unless you have some really tricky ways of getting him out of your library.
Yeah, there's so many better ways to draw cards.
Yeah.
You know, without having to jump through all those hoops.
Totally. The one thing I would have thought of right away in Modern, there's a card called Collected Company.
Oh, yeah.
And so this card reads 3 of anything and a green. You look at the top 6 cards of your library, and you can put up to 2 creature cards with CMC 3 or less onto the battlefield. If you put a Fibblethip out that way, you draw 2 cards off of casting your 4-mana Collective Company, as well as getting another creature on the battlefield. That seems like some pretty sweet value right there.
Oh, yeah. No, Collected Company is a modern all-star.
Oh, for sure.
And a standard all-star in its day.
In its day, it saw a lot of play.
So we're going to move on to blue instants. And the first one I want to talk about is Narset's Reversal. So it's 2 blue for an instant. Copy target instant or sorcery spell, then return it to its owner's hand. You may choose new targets for the copy. So this ability to return spells to owners' hands is not an ability we see very often. We've seen
Not
it.
at all.
We've seen it on Unsubstantiate, which is a 1 and a blue for an instant from Eldritch Moon, which is return target spell or creature to its owner's hand. We've also seen it on Venser Shaper Savant, which is 2 and 2 blue for a legendary creature with flash. Whenever Venser Shaper Savant comes into play, return target spell or permanent to its owner's hand. So with Narset's Reversal, we can return an opponent's spell to their hand, essentially countering that spell or doing like a time lock on that spell so they can't cast it again until their next turn, or they have to spend more mana to cast it. And then you get to cast it. And if it's your own spell, you can essentially get a copy of that spell that becomes Narset's Reversal.
Yeah, you can just like cast it on yourself and get more value out of a big spell.
So it can just be whatever you want. And for 2 blue mana, I think it's a really good card, and I think it's gonna see a lot of play in Commander.
I think so too. It kind of like even goes. It's kind of the same. Reminds me of Remand, which just puts the spell back in the hand and you get to draw a card.
Yes.
But turning that one colorless into a blue lets us just straight up copy that spell. That's pretty sweet.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I can't wait for someone to cast a big X spell and then just get to do that myself instead.
Oh yeah, those big Commander X spells.
Oh yeah,
And
we're
just
seeing this range of finale spells out here.
Yeah.
I'll take those soldiers and angels, thank you. There's one other instant to touch on. I think it'll really just see if you're running a certain kind of deck that this slots into, it'll be good. It'll definitely be, I think, pretty good in Standard. It's Lazar Templating. 1 of anything, 1 blue. It has a mass 1. I don't think we've talked about a mass yet.
No, let's go over a mass.
Yeah. New
Mechanic.
Thank you. And more of the spark. Basically, when you amass, you put a +1/+1 counter on an army you control. If you don't control one, you create a 0/0 army first, and then that token goes onto this army. So we kind of see it in the story and everything. It's a big war. So you can have an army token out there. So the good part about this spell on top of the amass is you and permanents you control gain hexproof until end of turn. So if someone's trying to spot removal your stuff in some way, just for 2 mana, you get to save your creature or even yourself from a certain kind of spell, and you still have a 1/1 left behind. That just seems like some pretty good value. Like I said in Commander, if you are playing like a kind of like maybe Voltron strategy, or you just have like a certain thing you need to protect, this is protection for it when someone tries to remove it that way. But in Standard, we've already seen cards like Dive Down and stuff that just make the creature hexproof. And so this is another thing that does that, but it hits everything instead of just a target. And you get a 1/1. So why not?
So let's move on and talk about
Some sorceries, I think.
some sorceries.
Yeah. We have Bond of Insight from blue. So this card is 3 of anything and 1 blue. Reads, each player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard. And then you get to return up to 2 instant and or sorcery cards from your graveyard to your hand. Then you do have to exile the Bond of Insights.
Yeah, so you can't just keep bonding of inciting. That makes sense.
Makes sense. You could just really loop that.
You definitely could. Yeah, and like what do we always want in a singleton format? It's redundancy.
Oh yeah.
We want to get back the spells that we cast so we can cast them again and get more value off of them. But we're not getting Bond of Insight back.
Sadly. Yeah. But we still get 2 other spells back.
Yeah.
So you need that board wipe again or something like that,
or you need to get that board wipe out of your graveyard back into your hand. So just you have the threat of that board wipe.
There we go.
Which can be very powerful.
Politics.
That's right. You just have like that Nev's disc on the table, untapped. No one's going to want to play anything except enchantments and planeswalkers.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I think Nev's disc does hit enchantments, but planeswalkers are safe. I think it's artifacts, enchantments, and creatures.
Yeah, it hits 3 things.
It does, yeah.
I think there's one other sorcery.
Yeah, we want to talk about Finale of Revelation.
Oh, yeah, the blue finale card.
Right. What does that one do?
In blue specialty, we are drawing cards. So X and 2 blue, draw X cards. And then if X is 10 or more, instead, shuffle your graveyard into your library, draw X cards, and then you get to untap 5 lands, and you have no max hand size for the rest of the game. You do have to exile the Finale of Revelation.
Oh, I always get you with that one, hey?
Always.
You just like, can't I just cast it again? Come on.
Come on, guys.
It's not that good.
I think this card is real good. I want to get a couple and throw them into my commander decks. There is a lot of times where you do have, Reliquary Tower or Thought Vessel and stuff. Someone blows that up, and you don't have that max hand size anymore.
There's always the threat of those things being blown up.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah. Once you cast it and it resolves, you have an infinite hand size.
Rest of the game.
They
have to kill you to get rid of your infinite hand size.
Pretty much. I do also like that on top of getting to draw all those cards, we get to untap 5 lands on top of everything that's going on. So we can still cast more spells, even. This even kind of... It is sorcery, so it's not quite as good as how, Blue Sun Zenith and such work.
Right.
But at sorcery speed, we still get to untap those lands. So it's really like 7 mana... draw 10 cards, max hand size.
And if those lands can tap for more than 1 mana, it's you're not upset about casting this card on one of your main phases. And I have to say I love the art on this card. I really am enjoying all the Nickelbolas art.
All of it.
It's really cool.
Is that Bolas or is that Ugin?
I think it's actually Ugin. Yeah.
Yeah, the wing color there.
That's right. That's what the flavor text is. It's
and you can see him flying towards those Bolas horns in the.
That's right. Nice. I'm glad you corrected me. I was probably gonna get an email about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're moving on to black. And the Plainswalker that everyone's been talking about is Liliana, the Dread Horde General. And what does she do, Eric?
When I first saw this card, I was like, Commander, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if this is 6 mana. I don't know if it's going to see standard play, but Commander,
ooh, yeah. So she is 4 of anything and 2 black. The static ability on this mythic Plainswalker is whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
If you got some creatures out there, some board wipes, I'll draw some cards.
Got some tokens that you can sacrifice them? I'll draw some cards.
Yeah. And her abilities work really well with this as well. +1. She does come in with 6 loyalty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so the +1 is create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So she also protects herself, which is great.
That's what you want.
Yeah. And then the -4, each player sacrifices 2 creatures. So then that just, everyone else has to sacrifice, but then you do have the Liliana, so you also get to draw some cards off of sacrificing. All upside.
Oh, yeah.
And then right at the bottom here, the -9, each opponent chooses a permanent they control of each permanent type and sacrifices the rest.
So that's going to hit your lands, boys and girls.
Lands.
Yeah. It's going to hurt, but just take out that Lily before she can do it.
This Planeswalker here is, I think, just a game ender if you get the ultimate.
Yeah.
There's no coming back.
And if you let it get that bad, you don't have anyone else to blame but yourself.
Except for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Straight up.
So yeah, this thing is going to be a commander powerhouse for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Let's move on to the creatures. First one we have on the docket is God Eternal Bontu. So this is 3 and black for a legendary creature, 5/6 with menace. When God Eternal Bontu enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of other permanents, then draw that many cards. When God Eternal Bontu dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library, 3rd from the top. Yeah, like all the other ones.
Yeah.
I just get going reading these cards, I just can't stop.
Then you're at the end, it's like, oh yeah, we said that before. I think this card's great, personally. Might not be as good in the commander format. A 5/6 for 5.
Because I think it's good because you can sacrifice tokens, right?
You can, yeah.
Yeah, and then just make tokens and draw cards, or if you have a way to give the cards Undying or Persist, they just come right back and you got to draw those cards.
Oh yeah, slot this right into
Mikaeus. Yeah.
Please, yeah.
No. Please do that. Yeah. That's fun.
If you have Mikaeus, get this guy in there. I will also say I think it will be good in a standard as well, because the text does read any number of other permanents. So if you're getting into the late game, you have a bunch of lands, you can still sack those to draw cards as well when this guy comes into play.
That's right. Yeah. If you're flooded and you just need gas.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
He can get you there.
Yeah. Did not notice that. So the next one, I've seen a few deck techs online about this card, but
already?
Yeah, a little bit. It's Massacre Girl.
I like this card a lot.
Yeah, you do.
On top of that art is pretty. It looks pretty creepy. If I saw her in real life, I would walk the other way, I think.
Yeah, she's a human assassin.
Yeah. Anyways, let's get to it. She's a 3 of anything and 2 black. A 4/4 with menace. When Massacre Girl enters the battlefield, each other creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Whenever a creature dies this turn, each creature other than Massacre Girl gets -1/-1. We were talking about how the -1/-1 abilities are good.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if we're playing a game, people are playing, little elves that tap for more mana and things like that. There's a lot of creatures on the battlefield. I think this can be really unassuming. And when somebody plays this, just the way it climbs up there and does hit all of the creatures on the battlefield.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's also interesting because it does say whenever a creature dies this turn, each other creature gets -1/-1. So if you play this, and then if you have a kill spell of some sort on another creature, that still triggers the ability as well.
Or if you have a sacrifice outlet.
And
you can sacrifice your creatures.
And it's also not just a single thing. So if there's 3 creatures out there that are of 1 health, when she enters, it'll trigger 3 times. And then so anything that's a 4/4 will still die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, very, very powerful.
And you got a 4/4 left over.
Yeah. And it's, it's a very creature heavy format. At least it is, in the local shops here.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see a lot of that. Also don't play super creature heavy strategies because,
Board wipes.
They're so easy to remove. They're the easiest. They're the easiest permanent to remove. I know it's fun, but they're so easy to get rid of.
Also, I just want to say for standard, I think this card can do some things. Definitely once the set launches, I want to get some people because there's a lot of elves running around and stuff, and so I think you'll just play this and kind of wipe the board unassumingly, and then have a 4/4 menace left over to swing in with. So
for sure, yeah.
I hope to have some fun.
So we're gonna move on to black enchantments, and I think the only one that we're gonna talk about is
Kaya's Ghost Form.
So
That's the only enchantment we've talked about so far.
Yeah, this set's not very heavy with the enchantments.
We have the Planeswalkers.
It's pretty heavy with the Planeswalkers. You got 36 Planeswalkers.
Yep.
We don't have time for enchantments.
No.
And apparently now they did wizards. So Kaya's Ghost Form is 1 black for an enchantment aura. Each enchant creature or planeswalker you control. When enchanted permanent dies or is put into exile, return that card to the battlefield under your control. So we just got the Commander 2018 decks back in, I guess it was last August. So it was, it was quite a while ago. But, those were Planeswalker commanders, and I found when we were playing those decks, I had a hard time finding cards to protect my commander. And if I had something like this that I could just throw on Lord Windgrace, and if he is heading to the graveyard or if he's getting exiled, I love that it's also if they're going to exile.
That's perfect.
You just bring them right back, and it's all good, So I think that's just a really great tech card if you're running a Planeswalker commander and you're in black. So I would definitely throw that in my deck.
I do like that card a lot because it's just straight up. It's a shield for your Planeswalker.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's, that's going to see like limited play. Might even see standard play,
Maybe.
Because it's only 1 mana, and it is, it's 1 mana to get back pretty valuable permanent.
Yeah, permanent that you have on the battlefield. So I like it. Then we have one instant to talk about.
1 black instant.
Yeah, Liliana's Triumph. So you cast this. It's 1 colorless and 1 black. And then target opponent has to sacrifice a creature. If you also control a Liliana Planeswalker, they have to discard a card as well. This is kind of an interesting card. Talking about it, it's not going to be on Commander at all. You don't see these cards in Commander.
No, no.
But we have seen in the past there's a Diabolic Edict, which does the exact same thing, but there's no upside. This one has the Liliana Planeswalker upside. And then there was Chainer's Edict as well, which we even just saw reprinted in Ultimate Masters.
Yeah.
That one does have flashback. This does not.
That card's a Pauper All-Star.
Yeah.
Chainer's Edict.
Heck yeah.
Also Diabolic Edict.
Yeah,
very good in that format.
So, and is it uncommon?
It is. Liliana's Triumph. Yeah, I think it is uncommon.
Yeah, I think it's uncommon.
Yeah, it's uncommon. Yeah.
So we won't see it in Pauper.
No. It's not going to make it into Pauper.
Because I see this coming around in Standard. There's not... The Liliana Planeswalker, I think, is a very side option thing. But sometimes we still have Carnage Tyrant running around.
Yeah.
7/6 hexproof. So.
Yeah, that's where you want Edict effects. They're very, very powerful.
Yeah,
because there are very few cards that stop that from happening.
Yeah.
There's one in this set, though, which we'll get to.
Mm-hmm.
So the next card we're going to talk about is Finale of Eternity. It's X black for a sorcery. Destroy up to 3 target creatures with toughness X or less. If X is 10 or more, return all creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this card's just fantastic. It's just hitting 3 creatures. If you're hitting 3 3/3s, if you're hitting 3 4/4s, 6 mana, 5 mana. That's not a huge investment to take out those creatures that your opponents paid handsomely for.
Oh yeah.
But if it's more than 10, you just get to return all your creatures from your graveyard. If you're playing a milling strategy where you've put all your stuff into your graveyard, milling yourself, that can just be a huge tempo blowout against your opponents. So I really like this card for Commander.
I agree. This card is so good. I think it's even, like you were saying, like it's just good even if you don't try and cast it for 10 or more.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can take out 3 creatures. That's great.
Yeah, for one card, like there's often, just like 3 commanders, right?
Yeah.
There's so many, problem creatures that you want to get off the battlefield at any given time.
Yeah, and like the white one, you cast it for 6 mana, you get 4 2/2s. This one, you can get rid of like 3 people's commanders.
The next card we're going to talk about is another sorcery, Command the Dreadhorde. So this card is 4 and 2 black. Choose any number of target creature and or planeswalker cards in graveyards. That's everybody's. Command the Dreadhorde deals damage to you equal to the total converted mana cost of those cards. Put them onto the battlefield under your control. So this card could win you games.
Hands down.
And we start with 40 life.
Yeah.
And so even if you're not gaining life, you might get into a bit of a dangerous life total by casting this card. But if it's going to win you the game, you're not too worried about it.
No.
Life doesn't really matter. Now, if you're in a life gain deck, you're even less worried about it.
And then I've even, I'm sure there's a bunch of combos and stuff that people know. If you have certain cards in your deck, play this. It may cost you this much health, but you're going to gain this much health, and you're just going to be like up no matter what.
Oh yeah, those like decks that are very finely tuned. Yeah.
But I think this card is a superpower.
Oh yeah, and it's got that art from the trailer. Did you watch the War of the Spark trailer?
I did watch the War of the Spark trailer.
I did eventually watch it. It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty. They stepped it up for this one. Usually the trailers are a little awful.
This was actual animation. We had a licensed song. I really liked the cover of
Linkin Park. Yeah, very good.
It was a really the song choice was great for what was happening.
That takes me back that in the end, Linkin Park. There's some great Dragon Ball Z music videos on YouTube if anyone's interested.
I do really like Linkin Park's first album. But
they're
solid.
It holds up. Yeah,
yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, R.I.P. Chester.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. He was a great guy, awesome singer.
Yeah.
Sad to see him go.
Me too. All right, so the next card we want to talk about is Deliver Unto Evil. So, what this card... I'll read the card. It's 2 and a black for a sorcery. Choose up to 4 target cards in your graveyard. If you control a Bolas Plainswalker, return those cards to your hand. Otherwise, an opponent chooses 2 of them, leaves the chosen cards in your graveyards, and puts the rest into your hand. Exile, Deliver Unto Evil. So it's kind of like a fact or fiction if you...
For your graveyard.
Right. If you don't have a Bolas Plainswalker, otherwise you just get 4 cards back.
Yeah.
Pretty good for 3 mana, But I think we both just really like this art.
The art on this card is so good.
It's fantastic. And like we were talking about with the Mythic Edition art of Bolas Dragon God, it really harkens back to the very old art of Magic, like when we started playing.
And that's what I love about this this art here.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Like I would love to have a print of this card,
If I could buy a print, it'd be on my wall.
Oh yeah, or like a wall scroll, like Ultra Pro do wall scrolls of this. They probably won't. It's too dark,
But also like in Commander, we usually have just like good cards in our yards.
Oh yeah.
So 4 good cards, I get the 2 worst of the good cards. That's still good cards in my hand.
Right, and I love cards like that force your opponents to choose.
Yeah.
Cards like I have an Unesh Cryosphinx Sovereign commander deck where every time Unesh or another Sphinx enters the battlefield under your control, it's like a fact or fiction effect, but it's only 4 cards. So you draw you. I don't think you draw. You reveal the top 4 cards of your library, and target opponent puts those cards into 2 piles, and you pick one.
Yeah.
And I feel like cards like that are really asking, how good are you at Magic?
Oh yeah.
Because sometimes you get some piles, and you're like, this is a really easy choice. And sometimes you don't.
Sometimes you don't.
Sometimes you don't.
Like You're hoping your opponent just gives you the right cards, and you're like, yes, thank you.
Thank you. Because they don't know what's in your hand, right? So
No,
they
they
don't know
don't.
what the best choice is. It's sort of just a bit. It's just cards like that I find so much fun because it does promote that kind of interaction.
Yeah,
You know?
because then like even the cards are revealed, right? So then everyone at the table can still kind of talk about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even though they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to say anything. They're just supposed to let the target player choose. But I always speak up.
Yeah, come on.
It's a social format.
If someone's putting like the 2 creatures, then the 2 lands in a pile, you're like, what are you doing?
He doesn't need lands.
All right, so I think we have one last black artifact here. Or
Black sorcery.
sorcery, sorry. Yeah.
No, we're not at the black artifacts yet.
Hold on.
And they know which one we're talking about.
Spoiler. So we have the Elder Spell. Sorcery. Just 2 black. 2 mana.
2 mana.
Destroy any number of target planeswalkers. Choose a planeswalker you control. Put 2 loyalty counters on it for each planeswalker destroyed this way.
So I think this card is going to see standard play.
Oh, so do I.
I think so because I like Commander. You know, I think initially we will see an influx of Super Friends decks and Planeswalkers in general.
Yeah.
And, you know, this card will probably see some play, but in the vastness that is the Commander format, this card is pretty narrow.
Yeah.
But I think this will see standard play.
I think it'll definitely be like a sideboard card we'll see
Yeah.
a lot because you're going to have those decks that are running all those planeswalkers. So, talking about Commander, though, if you're playing Super Friends, play this card.
Oh, definitely.
Because you can kill your own planeswalkers.
To get one of your planeswalkers up to a point where you can ultimate them.
Yeah, and sometimes ultimates your game. Look at that Liliana. Play that Liliana. Play this. Ultimate her the same turn you play her. No one can really do anything about that. Everyone loses their lands and whatever else they have. I think you win.
Or Nickelbolas God Dragon.
Yeah, there we go again.
If you don't have a legendary creature or planeswalker, you're dead.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
So I think in a Super Friends deck, real powerful card.
Oh, yeah.
And then, the Fringe standard play.
A little bit of Fringe.
All right, so that artifact we were kind of teasing.
What a tease.
I like to tease. So we have Bolas's Citadel.
That's right.
It's 3 of anything and 3 black.
For a legendary artifact.
Yeah, it's legendary. So you can only have one of these in play at a time. No redundancy.
Yeah, you don't really need more than one, though,
Yeah.
with this card.
You may look at the top card of your library at any time. Your turn, opponent's turn, whatever.
No one else gets to see.
No. You may play the top card of your library. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to the CMC cost rather than pay its mana cost.
Wow.
Okay.
That is fantastic. I can just pay life instead of mana that I don't have.
Yeah.
Great.
Why not?
40 life? Yeah, I'll pay some mana.
Let's get going. You can also tap and sacrifice 10 non-land permanents. Each opponent loses 10 life.
Tokens.
In a token deck, we can see that, but 10 permanents is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Other than like a token deck.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot. Even,
But I think this card is kind of good in most places in Magic.
Even if you're not using that last ability.
Oh, yeah.
Being able to pay life for mana is an incredibly powerful ability. Cheating mana costs is one of the most powerful things you can do in Commander and in Magic in general.
And it's also card advantage because we're playing cards from our library, not our hand.
And we're essentially drawing cards every time we cast that spell because we get to look at the next card anytime and cast it for life instead of mana. This card is fantastic.
It's just good all around. I don't play much of it, but I think in Legacy and Vintage, there's ways to like get artifacts out for free, and then you can just like kind of go through your deck, because you can just pay.
For sure, because you could just tinker this out, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're gonna move on to red, and I think we both found the red Planeswalkers in this set a little lackluster,
I think so.
so we're not going to talk about them.
We're already going long here, so
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the creatures first. The first creature we're going to talk about it's Ilharg.
it is Ilharg.
Ilharg the Raise Boar. So this is a legendary creature for 3 and 2 red, 6/6 trample. Whenever Ilharg the Rage Boar attacks, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. Return that creature to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. And then it has the same ability as all the other gods, where if it would die or be put into exile, you can put it in your library third from the top.
Just keeps coming back.
It just keeps coming back, and I love this card.
Oh, it's great.
I want to build a deck around this card.
Yeah.
Because that ability's sort of like card advantage, right? Because you get the creature out, it can attack. You want to play creatures with attack triggers. Do you get the attack trigger when something like that happens?
So this is the little interesting part about this creature. It's tapped and attacking already.
Oh,
So
okay.
you don't get the attack trigger. What you do get is if you have creatures that have when they deal combat damage to a player.
That's
Those
what you
ones
want to be
still
doing.
get. Yeah, so those are the kind of creatures you want to look for with this guy.
Okay.
I don't know how many of them are in red,
Right.
right? But some of the few that I think are pretty fun. We do have Medomai the Ageless. So this is a creature. This creature reads, it's 4 of anything, a white and a blue. It's a flyer. Whenever Medomai the Ageless deals combat damage to a player, take an extra turn after this one.
Ooh.
Medomai the Ageless can't attack during extra turns. So the cool part about this is that if we're using the boar, she'll go back to your hand at the beginning or at your end step, and at your next turn, she'll come back out. So it's a different permanent.
Infinite turns.
So you actually have infinite turns here with the boar and Medomai. So it's pretty spicy.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, of the 99, you need both these cards out there, but then infinite turns from 2 cards, I think, is pretty good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, the only thing better than a 2-card combo is a 1-card combo.
Yeah. It's not really a combo at that point.
No, it's not. No way.
And then there's also another really fun card, the Master of Cruelties.
Right. Visions of Kalia. You know, I
Yeah.
think we've all played against a Kalia deck.
I'm pretty sure we have, yeah. So
Yeah.
you can do the same thing here. He can't attack alone, but you can bring him out with the boar, and so when he's attacking a player and he's unblocked, that player goes to 1 health, and then the boar will finish off the damage, and you just basically get a player kill right there.
I like that.
Yeah.
Nice and clean. And
I think it's dirty, but
well, you know, I guess it depends which end you're on.
sure. Also, I think this card is even good in Standard. 5 mana for a 6/6 trample is really good stats. And then you're still getting another free creature out of your hand attacking every turn as well.
Yeah, the trample really puts it over the top.
I think it does, yeah.
And I really love the art on this card.
This one's great.
It just
He's got like a flaming green mohawk.
yeah, it kind of reminds me of the boars from Princess Mononoke. Did you ever see that movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
good name drop there.
So I think that's the only red card that either of us wanted to talk about, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're gonna move on to green, and
we do have the red finale, which I think we should talk about.
oh yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah. All the finales are great. So red here is giving us the finale of Promise. So it is X into red. You may cast up to 1 target instant card and or up to 1 target sorcery card from your graveyard, each with converted mana cost X or less without paying their mana costs. If a card cast this way would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. If X is 10 or more, copy each of those spells twice.
Twice.
And you can choose new copies for those targets.
New targets for the copies.
New targets for the copies.
I love this card.
So good.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Like I can think of so many cards. I mean, like extra turn cards. You know, twice.
Okay, I'll
Make
take
your
3 turns.
yeah.
Yeah.
You won the game.
Yeah. You should win.
You should win. If you can't
Yeah.
win at that point, you probably you're in dire straits.
If you have a spell slinger deck, you can go kind of crazy. There's Firemind's Insight. It's a 7 CMC card, but you get to tutor out a 1, 2, and 3 cost instant card from your deck. So if you can copy that twice with this, it's a lot of cards.
That's a ton. Yeah.
Just slinging spells.
Oh yeah, this whole cycle of cards is just fantastic.
Oh yeah, they're great.
We also want to talk about the red artifact.
Yeah, we got to touch on that guy.
Yeah.
I think we're not going to see it in Commander at all.
No, I don't think so.
No, but we were talking about before how the vehicles have to crew themselves.
Yeah.
This guy is a little bit different. So it is one of anything in 2 red. It is a 3/2 with trample. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, the tank becomes an artifact creature and gets +1/+1 until end of turn.
Becoming a 4/3.
Becoming a 4/3. If you cast another non-creature spell, it's a 5/4.
It's kind of like prowess.
Yeah,
right?
it's got prowess.
But for creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so non-creature spell.
Oh, it's non-creatures. Okay, so it's exactly like prowess.
It's prowess, yeah. I don't know why they don't just say that. But yeah, so this is a card. It dodges board wipes and things like that. You're going to be casting Planeswalkers. This just turns on, and you can swing in there. So I think also for Spellslinger decks, in Standard right now, we do have like an Is It Phoenix deck.
Right.
Just cast a lot of small spells. This card is going right in that deck.
Absolutely.
I think you can make space for it. It's just another beater.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No, I like this card a lot.
Yeah.
So now we're going to move on to green.
Let's get to that green.
Yeah. I sort of got a little ahead of myself. So the first green Planeswalker we're going to talk about is Nissa, Who Shakes the World. So she's a 3 green legendary Planeswalker with 5 loyalty. Her static ability is whenever you tap a forest for mana, add an additional green to your mana pool. Her +1 is put 3 1/1 counters on up to 1 target non-creature land you control. Untap it. It becomes a 0/0 elemental creature with vigilance and haste that's still a land. And her -8 is you get an emblem with lands you control have indestructible. Search your library for any number of forest cards, then put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. So
lands.
That is a lot of lands. So you can tap your forests for double mana, and that it doesn't say basic forest. So all of your duels that have the forest land type, you can tap for an additional green. So your Stomping Grounds, you can tap for red, and then you get green. The put 3 1/1 counters on up to 1 target non-creature land, so you can't keep putting it on the same land.
Which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it is. But she does protect herself with that +1, which is really good with vigilance and haste, which is what you want. And that emblem, you want to run this in a deck that has a lot of landfall triggers, because if you're running a deck that is predominantly green and landfall triggers, you can just empty out your deck, thin out your deck of all the lands, and then after that you're just drawing gas.
Oh yeah. Getting that ultimate, I think, is a little scary because we are putting counters on our lands, and then if somebody just wipes the board or something like that, kills creatures, we're losing our lands from this.
That's true, but you can just we did get Heroic Intervention back in Aether Revolt, which is 1 and a green for an instant. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn.
It's a great card.
It is a fantastic card, and if you have a green deck, you should put it in there.
Oh yeah.
It's sort of like a green counterspell, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Because a lot of times, like we were saying in the last episode, you really want to use your counterspells to save your board, right?
Yes.
To save your game plan, to ensure your victory. Unless you're playing, like a Tal'Ren Sky Summoner deck where you're just countering everything to get Drakes. And then you're winning with Drakes.
The Drake beats.
Yeah, I really like this card. I'm definitely going to be slotting this into my Angry Omnath deck
Oh yeah,
for sure.
because it doubles your mana just being on the battlefield.
Absolutely.
Why not?
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
I just love that it hits duels and you can search for duels. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
we like in the Commander format, we like duels.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, unless it's Blood Moon or Ruination, then we wish we didn't have as many duels. So the next card we're going to talk about is Vivian, Champion of the Wilds.
All right, so this is one of the rares. So we just have the 2 abilities. She's 2 and a green, so just three mana. You may cast creature cards as though they had flash. So her static ability is definitely an ability we've seen on other creatures before.
Yeah, like Yeva, Nature's Herald.
Yes.
Right? But she could cast... she only affects green creatures. Vivian hits all the creatures.
All creatures, yeah. So I think that's that makes me excited.
Super powerful.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you have Vivian on the battlefield and you pass the turn and somebody wants to attack Vivian, you just flash in a creature to block.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and you get them.
Nope.
They try and swing in, and you just kill the creature.
Yeah, and you can warn them. You can say, "Hey, you want to attack this Vivian here? I'm gonna get you. I'm just letting you know because I got flash.
It's coming.
Yeah, and if you try to remove it, I'll just cast a creature.
Anyways,
Yeah.
you can give them the value.
You can't stop me.
She does have the abilities +1 until your next turn. Up to 1 target creature gains vigilance and reach. The reach can come into play if you have a lot of annoying flyers coming at you.
And that's a way to protect yourself, right? Like you could
Yeah.
have a creature that you could attack with, like give it vigilance. You can attack vigilance and reach. You can attack with it. It's not tapped. And then, it can block creatures with evasive abilities like flying.
Which is great because then you can still swing in with your big creature.
Yeah, add another Planeswalker.
Oh, yeah. And then we have the -2. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, exile 1 face down, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. For as long as it remains exiled, you may look at that card and you may cast it if it's a creature card, yeah. So this is great. It can grab any card, so even if you whiff, people won't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it'll just stay exiled forever, and they'll be like, what's coming?
And when you do whiff, you really don't want people to know.
Yeah.
It's enough that you whiffed. You don't need the embarrassment added onto it.
So don't make a face.
No, don't. Just keep that poker face. Like wear sunglasses. When you
baseball cap?
When you go to your local card shop, baseball cap, sunglasses.
Don't look like an idiot.
It's professional poker out there, guys.
All right. So now, green loves big creatures.
They do.
I think we should talk about some big green creatures.
Well, this first one isn't that big.
Oh,
so the first one...
That's kind of disappointing.
It's a little disappointing, but it is a very good card. So the first creature I want to talk about is Evolution Sage. So it's very similar to Flux Channeler.
Ooh, proliferate.
Proliferate, yeah. It's 2 and a green for a 3/2. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, proliferate.
From a land?
From a land, yeah. So if you're running... a lands deck with a lot of planeswalkers, Evolution Sage is green, and what's that other popular enchantment that's also green that's really good with planeswalkers? Doubling Season.
Hey.
Yeah. And
these cards together.
Fantastic. But this could also be good in a deck where you're just running a lot of counters.
Yeah.
Like green is also very good at producing tokens, and if you can put counters on those tokens, and green you're putting a lot of lands into play, it's not just effective for planeswalkers. So I really like this card just from the the lands. You can't stop lands from coming into play.
Yeah.
You get to proliferate.
And that we're talking about counters, there's a Hardened Scales. Just that one green enchantment, whenever a counter is placed on it, another one of those counters gets placed on it. You have both those out there, your creatures are just skyrocketing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That card's actually gotten a little pricey, hasn't it?
It has seen play in Modern, so that's going to spike that price.
Which is like the namesake of that deck, right?
Yeah, there's a deck actually called the Hardened Scales now.
Right.
Affinity has turned into kind of Hardened Scales.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've encountered that one.
Oh.
It's bad, not fun.
I was playing Tron, turn 4, the guy's swinging with like a 20/20 flyer, and I'm like, okay.
I didn't have natural Tron. Excuse me.
God. Ugh. All right, so we got the last of the gods to talk about here.
That's right. All these gods.
Yeah, I mean, Bolas is still there, but yeah.
Yeah. But he's a dragon god. These are god eternals.
There we go. Different. Yeah. So this is God Eternal Ronus. Ronus is coming back as a 3 of anything, 2 green, 5/5 with Death Touch. When he enters the battlefield, double the power of each other creature you control until end of turn. Those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn as well.
So good.
It's pretty good. This feels like a card that can just end games.
For sure.
Yeah. Because you're going to have a big board of creatures. We definitely see the Crater Hoof Behemoth. He is different, being 5 of anything and 3 green.
Yeah. He's 8 mana.
Yeah, he's a 5/5 with haste. But then when he enters, all of your creatures get +X for your biggest creature.
No, they get +X, where X is equal to the number of creatures you control.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah.
And he has haste, so he also gets the buff and he can attack. Yeah.
So this card is 3 mana less. You're going to be casting a big late game as well, so I don't know. It seems like more redundancy to me.
Yeah.
You just have another card in there that can just like make your creatures bigger.
Definitely.
And then if you only have like 3 to 4 creatures, but if you have 10 10s and 12 12s,
yeah,
double that's a lot of power coming in. I think it's also great if you have a way to abuse that ETB effect. So if you can blink.
Yeah. Definitely.
We have a 10/10, blink it, it's a 20/20. Or he enters, sorry, it's a 20/20, blink it, it's a 40.
40.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he does have the stock God Eternal ability where if he dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library, third from the top.
These gods are going to be tough to get rid of.
They will be, yeah. Because even if you don't do that, you can, and you're running it as a commander, you just throw it in the command zone, and it's even tougher to get rid of.
Oh yeah. So, how about some green instants?
Green instants, yeah. The next card we want to talk about is Return to Nature. Now, this card is essentially a better Naturalize. And I've kind of gone away from running Naturalize in my commander decks in lieu of cards like Crows and Grip, which is 2 and a green for an instant with Split Second, and to destroy target artifact or enchantment. And Split Second is an ability that we don't see on many cards. I think it was from the Time Spiral block.
Yeah, I think it's from then, so it's old.
And if players can't activate abilities or cast spells unless they activate mana abilities, while a spell with Split Second is on the stack. So it's a very powerful effect because you can just kind of remove something with no questions asked.
Nobody can do anything about it.
Which, I think is better than Naturalize. And I also like Unravel the Aether, which is 1 and a green, and you put target artifact or enchantment, you shuffle target artifact or enchantment into that player's library.
Oh.
So, it's, with more like indestructible effects, like we can just sort of get rid of something and tuck it into their deck, and it's gone. But
probably hopefully shouldn't see it again.
you hopefully shouldn't see it again, and don't do it if they're playing like a tutor deck where they can search for artifacts and enchantments. It's like,
just gonna get it back, idiot.
Yeah, they're just well experience is the greatest teacher. So Return to Nature is a 1 and a green for an instant. Choose 1, destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, or exile target card from a graveyard. So
Those first 2 seem pretty good.
Those first 2 do seem pretty good. And, like we've said, modal spells are good, right? Options are good. So there could be a scenario where you do want to remove a card from an opponent's graveyard. And, if you're running Naturalize, just run this card instead.
It's
right?
better.
Because it's just better. You have an extra option tacked on there.
Why not?
If I was running Naturalize in any of my decks, I'd throw this in there. And you know what? Even though I'm not running Naturalize in any of my decks, I might put this in some decks. So that I think that's a pretty solid endorsement for this card. I might put it in a deck.
But it is always good to have those options. There's sometimes a fringe thing that happens, and you're like, there's this Eldrazi that hits the graveyard for a second, then goes back into the library. You can exile it on the stack and stuff, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, definitely. Those pesky Titans.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So the next card we're going to talk about
is a sorcery.
Is a sorcery. Yeah. I think this might be my favorite card in the set.
Cool.
Yeah.
Why don't you helm this one?
I'm gonna.
Right.
So this card is another card in the finale cycle. It's X green for a sorcery. Did I say what it is? It's Finale of Devastation, just in case. Search your library and or graveyard for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. If X is 10 or more, creatures you control get +X and gain haste until end of turn. This card just has if you have a green deck that wants to win with combat damage and wants to tutor up big creatures, utility creatures, this is the card for that deck.
Put it in there. There's no questions.
Put it in there. And green has long been a color that has regrowth effects. Like regrowth is a very old card in Magic that is the namesake for the effect of bringing a card back from your graveyard to your hand or the battlefield. And regrowth is 1 in a green, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. But this card lets you get any creature from your graveyard or your library, and hopefully it's 10 or more mana, and you paid into it, and then all your creatures get a Crater Hoof Behemoth effect. This, I think this card will win games. Also, if you search for Crater Hoof Behemoth,
oh boy,
that's
the bonus we just talked about.
That's right. You are sitting pretty.
Oh boy.
Yes, I'm definitely going to be pre-ordering some of these cards for sure.
Yeah. The finale cycle, I love.
I love it. Yeah.
I guess people who don't play Commander probably don't feel the same, but when we get to cast these big spells that probably end a game,
yeah,
it's good.
Not loving the art on this card, but besides that, I like it. I probably won't spring for a foil.
No. You got the shininess up there in the sunbeam,
Yeah, the sunbeam will look good. So Nissa's Triumph is the next card we're going to talk about. Sorcery for 2 green. Search your library for up to 2 basic forest cards. If you control a Nissa Plainswalker, instead search your library for up to 3 land cards. Reveal those cards and put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. So normally with green ramp spells, we want to get cards. We want to get land cards onto the battlefield.
Yeah.
And this card doesn't do that. But I think the fact that if you control a Nissa Plainswalker, you get to search for any forest cards. You can get duels.
You can search for any land.
Right, any land cards.
Any land.
Yeah, which is super powerful.
Yeah.
Especially in a land-based deck, where you're probably going to be running Nissa Plainswalkers because she's very land-centric.
Mm-hmm.
You're just, it's just so much value for 2 mana.
The thing I like about that is because it's this card is, like you were saying, it doesn't go onto the battlefield, so casting when you don't have the Planeswalker out is okay. If you're casting this on turn 2 and getting 2 more lands out of your deck, you're on a good path.
Oh yeah, and you're not missing your land drops. No. And if you have, exploration type abilities, you want lands into your hand.
Yeah.
So.
But if you have that Planeswalker, search for any land. We can get lands like Boseiju and have our instant sorceries not counterable. Or we can get stuff like Reliquary Tower if we need no max hand size.
Or Strip Mine if we have to get rid of a problem land.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on, we have a green artifact. Goes with the Vivian talk we've been having. Vivian's Arcbow. So it's 1 of anything and 1 green. It has the ability of you pay X and tap. Discard a card. Look at the top X cards of your library. You may put a creature card with converted mana cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order.
This card is nuts.
I think that's pretty nuts. You're in green, you have creatures, pay 5, pay 6, you're getting a creature out of your deck onto the battlefield.
And if you have like a Sylvan Library or a Miri's Guile or a Sensei's Divining Top, like you already know like at least like 3 cards deep what's up there,
So you're just like, if I have like a 2 mana cost card, pay 3, that's on the battlefield.
Boom.
I think this card's so good.
Yeah,
just if you're running creatures in green and commander.
And if you're doing that, they have enter the battlefield triggers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can do that at instant speed.
So we can just like hold our mana up in case we need to do something else. End step, bring out a creature onto the battlefield, which you don't do with many cards either at instant speed.
No. These effects in green are very powerful because they mimic what other colors can do, which is respond to things at instant speed. In green we're using creatures. The other spells use like instants and sorceries.
Yeah.
But it really evens the playing field in Commander.
For sure. I like this card a lot.
Yeah.
Also, again, the art.
Oh yeah.
I want that foil.
So we've covered all the colors. We're gonna move on to the multicolored cards that we want to talk about. We already talked about Nickelbolas Dragon God in our MTG News segment.
I think we can just touch on the art here as well. Again, just like the colors spraying out from the edges and everything. Looks awesome. His glowing eyes.
Yeah, it really does exemplify his like god status.
Yeah.
It's a very cool card. I haven't been following the lore very much of what's been leading up to the War of the Spark, but he is a good villain because I sort of want him to win. I sort of want all the Planeswalkers that are fighting him to win too, but I kind of want him. He's kind of like Tony Soprano, It's like it's like the anti-hero.
Yeah.
I kind of like him.
Yeah.
So, the first multicolored Planeswalker we want to talk about is Tamiyo, Collector of Tales. So her static ability, well, let's just read the card. She's 2 green and blue for a legendary Planeswalker with 5 loyalty. Spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause you to discard cards or sacrifice permanents. I don't know if that sentence has ever been printed on a card before.
I think we've had them separately.
We've had them separately, yeah, but those two things together, we've never had them.
Yeah.
Her +1 is choose a non-land card name, then reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all cards with the chosen name from among them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. -3, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. So she's got a regrowth ability.
Yeah.
So that ability to protect your permanents from edict effects, sacrifice effects, is rare. Right? There's only a few cards that do it. Sigarda, Host of Herons does it. Tajura Preserver from Rise of Eldrazi, which is a 1 and a green for an elf druid. Spells and abilities opponents control can't cause you to sacrifice permanents.
Oh, wow.
I think that might be it. That card's a 1/2 or a 1/1.
Yeah.
So it's not very common. There's a land from Eldritch Moon that stops you from It's Nephelia Academy. If a spell or ability an opponent control will cause you to sacrifice permanents or discard cards, you can instead put some cards that you discard on the top of your library and discard some of the other cards. I used to play that against a friend of ours, Nekuzar deck, but I'd still have to end up drawing the cards anyway and take the damage, so it wasn't very good. So I love this ability because it's so rare, because if you have hexproof or shroud creatures, edict effects and mass destruction is the things that you're most worried about. But you can give creatures indestructible. You can't give them protection from edict effects.
Yeah, it's not a thing.
And you can't protect your hand from discard.
No.
So this is a very, very powerful static ability. I think we're going to see this card just for that ability, you know?
I think so. Like, that's where the value of this card is. Because if you're looking to regrowth something, you're just going to play one of those cards, not a Planeswalker for that.
No, you're going to play Eternal Witness, right?
Exactly. Yeah. The card's so much better. Her +1 is super awkward. I think this card really is just like mill 4 for +1, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless you have a way of, like a Sensei's Top or a Sylvan Library out there. Other than that, yeah, you're just milling 4, really.
Yeah.
The chances, I'm sure, are just super low.
Yeah, I really like this card, like, again, for the static ability, but the rest of it is not great.
Yeah.
And then you also have to protect her. With those other cards I mentioned, those are creatures, so it's not like people can attack into them, so...
But again, like, if you have creatures out there, Planeswalkers are harder to hit with targeted removals, so...
Absolutely.
Upsides, downsides, yeah. It's a good card.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Next up, we have Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge.
This card's nuts.
I like this card a lot.
I love it, too. I love it. Yeah.
Tezzeret's great. I do love artifacts. I have made multiple artifact commanders.
And this is Tezzeret after he merged himself with the Planar Bridge, right?
Yeah. So...
I get down with that lore.
Yeah. So we got Tezzeret here. 4 of anything, a blue and a black. Creatures and Planeswalker spells you cast have affinity for artifacts.
And what is affinity for artifacts?
So affinity for artifacts is for every artifact you have in play, the card you're playing is 1 less colorless mana. So
you could cast colorless spells for free if you had enough artifacts in play.
Exactly.
Okay.
If we have 8 artifacts in play, we can play Ugin for free.
Yes, like original Ugin.
Yeah, the one we were talking about before.
Yeah,
throw him on the battlefield, exile things. That's insane. That's ridiculous.
We should do that.
Yeah. And wait, there's more. He has abilities.
What?
So he starts with 5 loyalty. His plus is a +2. Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge, deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of artifacts you control, and then you gain X life. For a +2.
That definitely plays on the affinity mechanic.
It does.
Yeah.
But that's insane. Again, you're playing an artifact deck. You have like 4 or 5 artifacts out, even when you play this guy. You're doming everyone for 5, and then you gain 5. And it's a +2 ability.
Yeah.
This card, I think, is really strong for Commander. It's insane. And then for -3, we can return target artifact from our graveyard to our hand. I guess because his other abilities are so good, they don't want this to go to the battlefield. So you're like, you still got to cast it. But you have affinity for artifacts anyways, so like...
You can put it in your hand and then cast it for free.
It probably, yeah.
That's probably why they didn't put it on the battlefield. It's just like, let's make it a little tougher so they get the cast trigger?
I guess, yeah. Give me that cast trigger. The Eldrazi are free as well if you have enough artifacts out there because it's a creature.
Oh, yeah.
Planeswalker and creature spells, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we do have a -8. Exile the top 10 cards of your library. Put all artifact cards from among them onto the battlefield. Decent. This is a fine ultimate.
I wish I could run this in my Memnarch deck.
Yeah.
It's so good.
You're going to have to choose a different Planeswalker.
I probably will. I probably will.
Yeah. This card's so good. I really hope he's not too expensive because he is the buy a box promo.
Well, he is the buy a box promo, but I think they kind of learned from their Nexus of Fate snafu. Because at 6 mana, I don't know if this is going to see standard play.
We do
are
see
there
cards
any
get up there with commanders though?
Yeah,
for commander pricing.
We do. That definitely has an effect on the Magic economy. But
when Firesong and Sunspeaker first came out, that card was $20.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was the buy a box promo.
But what is it now? Right.
It actually has gone down to about $5.
So, that might happen with this because I think this
card's way more playable than Firesong, though.
Yeah, but Firesong was a commander, right? And when a card is a commander, I think that can affect the value.
You're
a
right
bit
there,
more.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you could play this as a commander, like Tezzeret can be your commander.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So let's move on to some multicolored creatures. Feather the Redeemed,
Ooh, yeah.
The first Boros viable commander. Why don't you
Sure.
Why don't you read what she does?
So we have Feather the Redeemed, 1 red, 2 white. Flying, 3/4. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature you control, exile that card instead of putting it into your graveyard as it resolves. If you do, return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step.
That's card advantage.
Straight card advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Boros.
Yeah.
Never did I ever think we would see that.
You can be playing pump spells and stuff, and they will make sense with this commander.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll be seeing a lot of these decks in our local card shops.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will in the coming months.
For sure.
So just get rid of Feather. When you see her on the battlefield, just take her out.
Yeah.
Because if the the Boros players, when you take out their commander a couple of times, they're not gonna have the mana to cast them again.
No, yeah.
No, it's over.
And then again, like I like how it's if you target any creature, not just Feather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it's like a sacrifice effect, I don't know if like red, white has those, but it could be like a destroy effect or an exile effect. Like you pat to exile one of your other creatures, and then everyone. Well, no, let's do Swords to Plowshares, so everyone doesn't get to search for a land for every single creature. Basic land.
Yeah, because you just get to cast a spell one more time.
Oh, it's only once more.
Yeah, so like you're casting.
I was thinking of it like it's like
it's
Zeta Hedron Grinder.
Yeah. So you get to cast a spell on a creature, and then you basically get it back. You get that card back in your hand at your end step.
End step, yeah.
The next end step. So it's like if you're casting instants on other people's turns, you get them back as well.
Yeah, that's how you could really capitalize on Feather is casting those spells during other people's turns.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think also this again going to Standard and Magic Arena. Boros Angels is totally a deck that we can see. We have Feather at the 3-drop slot, and then we have an Aurelia at the 4-drop slot, and then you finish it off with Lyra in the 5-drop slot. We're just curving into Angels that are flying, and then Lyra herself flying first strike and lifelink as a 5/5 and gives other Angels +1/+1.
+1, yeah.
Boros Angels, here we come. Like, good times.
Yeah, I need to get that on a t-shirt.
We should make t-shirts. On to my favorite card.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Are you going to build a deck around this card, maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
Straight up. I saw this card.
Right.
I saw it spoiled before it was like spoiled by Wizards. And I could not wait.
just do the land base first, like do the hard stuff.
Yeah.
And then get the fun cards. Like
do
do the hard work. Yeah. Okay, but let's get to the card.
So he's a dragon. Dragons are awesome. So we have Niv Mizzet Reborn.
He's back.
He's back.
Better than ever.
I don't know what's happening in the lore because we did have him in Ravnica.
That's right, Perrin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Niv Mizzet Perrin. So something happens here.
No flavor text to even tell us what could possibly be happening.
There's so much text on there, man. Though there's so much text.
Yeah, just make it like a 10, and we can put some flavor text in.
I have to say, I have to get a foil of this guy. It looks like it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, he's like flexing. Hey,
oh yeah, he's flexing
like,
that.
Oh yeah, like those pecs.
Oh yeah. So he costs 1 Wooburg, so 1 of each mana.
That's right.
And he's a 6/6 flyer, so he still has decent stats. When Niv Mizzet Reborn enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each color pair, choose a card that's exactly those colors from among them. Put the chosen cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
And guess a mechanic that you have in those colors is a blink effect.
Yeah.
Right? So you can just blink him.
You can just blink him
and
as
just
well.
keep trying for those color pairs.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think this card's awesome. I think it's also a neat deck building restriction.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna want to have a lot of the 2 color pair cards in there, so that when you cast Niv, you're getting like 3 to 4 cards from him entering the battlefield. So it's a really fun thing to kind of build around as well. This commander seems just like really fun, really great. He's still a 6/6 flyer, so he's still like a good creature himself. Yeah, and then we have all these cool creatures that we've just had. He can grab himself. Mizaparin.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing you really have to worry about with playing all those multicolored cards is Ravnica at War.
Yeah.
You know, and somebody just exiles all multicolored.
That card's my bane with this deck.
Yeah. But, you know, it's just one card, right?
just one
And they
card.
have to draw it.
But my excitement is through the roof for this card. After the set comes out, I'll probably start working on the deck, and yeah.
Yeah, that would be a fun deck tech to do, for sure.
Yeah, we'll hopefully get that coming down, so.
Yeah, no, I love. Yeah, you know, it's really interesting when they do like 5-color commanders. Often, that the 5-color restriction is, I think, supposed to be a hurdle, right?
Yes.
It's supposed to make it more complicated to cast that commander. But when you do a 5-color commander, you have access to green. Right, so it makes fixing very, very easy. So they give you a 5-cost commander, but the stats are
Automatically
better. But it's really not that difficult in Commander to get 5 colors on before turn 5.
Yeah.
You know, and the mana to do it. You know, so it's you know.
Yeah.
Just it's just interesting. It's just an observation.
Oh yeah. Because like, just put a bunch of those green ramp cards in there.
Oh yeah, or like you know what's really great in decks like this is Bloom Tender.
Oh yeah.
Which is I think it's from Eventide. It's 1 and a green, and it taps for a colored mana. For each colored mana among permanents you control. So if you control a 5-color permanent, it taps for 5. Yeah, and it taps for 1 of each of those colors.
Yeah.
So if you have all 5 colors on the battlefield, you can just tap and cast your Niv Mizzet Reborn.
And you're good to go.
But I think Bloom Tender's like, I think it's approaching $50.
It's climbing.
Yeah.
I remember when we first started playing Commander, the card was like $15.
Yeah, I bought it for. I think I bought it for around 15. It might have been
15,
a little
20,
bit more. Yeah,
15, 20. Yeah. Ugh.
needs a reprint.
It does.
Just reprint it. That should have been in the Mythic Edition.
Oh, there we go.
Make it a Planeswalker.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on to.
I do have a little of a standard card here.
Oh yeah,
that I
let's
think's
talk
really
about
good.
that. Yeah.
The Soul Diviner. It is 1 blue and 1 black. It's a 2/3. Tap. Remove a counter from an artifact, creature, land, or planeswalker you control and draw a card.
Can you also read the flavor text on that one, Eric? I like it.
As the Eternal's cold fingers tightened around his throat, Domri realized what kind of master he had rushed to serve.
Oh man, Domri, you blew it.
See you, Domri.
You done.
Oh boy. All right. So yeah, this card, it's basically tap draw card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
You're
just
gonna
like
put in a deck that has counters.
super powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a 2/3. It's you can leave it up to block, and then the end step before your turn, draw a card.
Oh yeah.
You know, super powerful.
Super powerful.
Yeah.
No. There's a Sultai, so blue, green, black deck in standard right now, and this card just fits right in there. It's a bunch of explore creatures getting counters and stuff. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, so this guy is basically just tap draw card. I think it fits right in that deck. Great inclusion.
That's a rare?
That's a rare. Yeah.
That's a great card.
Yeah.
Just that stat line, 2/3 for
For
2 mana.
And then
That's
you're just
just
drawing cards from it. Yeah. So
my goodness. Yeah. Well, let's move on to some sorceries. First one I'd like to talk about is Casualties of War. Mm-hmm. This card is 2 colorless, 2 black, and 2 green. For a sorcery, choose 1 or more. Destroy target artifact, target creature, target enchantment, target land, target planeswalker. So I think this deck is going to be a Golgari All-Star, a black-green deck All-Star.
if you're in Golgari, run Casualties of War.
Absolutely.
Straight up.
It's 6 mana to remove 5 permanents, and hey, if all the permanents aren't on the battlefield, you don't have to target all of them. It's it's a 1 or more option.
I think that's also one of the best upsides of this card, is that you don't need all the options out there to still cast it.
Absolutely, because sometimes you just want to remove an artifact, creature, enchantment, land.
Yeah.
Maybe there's not a planeswalker.
But you can still do it.
Absolutely. And even for 6 mana, that's not bad. 6 mana for 3 permanents, still not that bad.
Still good.
Because that's what was that X card? The finale, the black
one?
the black finale. Yeah, that was like 6 mana, remove 3 creatures with 3 CM or 4 CMC or less, you know?
1 card for getting rid of 3 other cards at least. It's good value.
Absolutely. Ooh, this next card, I love cards like this. Like, I've already talked about my proclivity for Voltron decks, and this card is definitely a card you want to use if you're running a Voltron deck. So that card is Time Wipe. It's 2 white and a blue for sorcery. Return a creature you control to its owner's hand, then destroy all creatures.
Oh boy.
So you don't really want to put this in your Voltron deck if it's an Enchantress deck, because then all the enchantments will go to the graveyard. But if it's an equipment deck,
slots right in there.
no big deal.
No big deal.
You know, I mean, it's kind of a big deal because you got to pay all those equip costs again. But hopefully you have a reducer that it wasn't a creature.
Yeah.
But yeah, this card's just great. Like, even if you want to, if it's just a very congested board state and you want to return your commander to your hand so you don't have to pay that pesky commander cost again, and you can just get rid of all the creatures. You know, it's just great. It's what blue white does best. It's no Supreme Verdict, but it's pretty good. Like,
It's got that upside. So.
If I'm running Supreme Verdict in a deck, I'm gonna be putting Time Wipe in that deck. I'll find a spot for it. I'm not gonna. It's not one for the other, but it's definitely a contender to go in that deck. I really like this board wipe. I really like board wipes that, even if they're not one-sided, they do have an upside for the player casting it.
Yeah, and even if you just have like a big creature out there, you can still just return that, cast your commander again with the commander cost, but you're still getting rid of that gummed up board. It's great.
Or a creature with a powerful enter the battlefield trigger.
Yeah, for sure.
And just do that again. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like this card a lot.
There is one instant to touch on in the multicolor. This card is good everywhere. We have Dovin's Veto.
Dovin's Veto.
1 white, 1 blue. Instant. This spell can't be countered. Counter target non-creature spell. Every control deck just run this card.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's negate with an upside.
No, this is going to see play in modern sideboards as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Like, we're going to see it in standard with Teferi decks. Because you just can't do anything about this. You can just say no to a spell.
Yeah, and we're going to see this in Azorius commander decks.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. And then, yeah, like you were saying, in the modern, any blue-white control deck, like, why wouldn't you run this in your sideboard?
And it's going to be a beautiful foil.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
The Dovin in the background there with all the flames around it. Yeah, like, it sees pretty good.
Get it into a perfect fit right away, because it will curl.
That new printing.
We're going to move on to colorless cards that we want to talk about. So the first card we're going to talk about is Firemind Vessel. And Eric and I were talking about this card earlier this week, and this wasn't initially a card I wanted to talk about because I didn't think it was very powerful, and I've since changed my tune on that. But Eric, could you talk a little bit about this card and why it's really good in the Commander format?
For sure. So, Firemind Vessel, it is a 4-cost mana rock, essentially. It enters the battlefield tapped, which is the one downside of this, but you can tap it and add 2 mana of different colors to your mana pool. This is great because there's not a lot of mana rocks out there that actually tap for colored mana.
There's very few.
Yeah. And this taps for any 2 different ones. So if you're running a 2-color deck or higher, I think this card really fits in there right away. Even if you're playing this turn 4, turn 5, you may slow down a little bit, but then if you are color screwed in any way, this will probably help you out in the end.
Yeah, or if in a multiple colored deck, if you're only drawing like utility lands. That's happened to me in monocolored decks.
Yeah.
And I don't have any colored mana. Not that I would run this in those decks, but
it's still a good example.
It's a good example.
Yeah, for sure. So
absolutely.
I think this is going to be a commander staple
Oh yeah, no, like buy this card, buy foils of this card because it will be valuable.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Next up, we have the God Pharaoh's statue. So this is it's an expensive artifact. It's 6 mana to get this guy on the battlefield. Spells your opponent's cast cost 2 more to cast. And at the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses 1 life.
And it's legendary, so you can't have more than one of them on the field.
So, commander, for sure. We have 1 of everything in the deck. This is just a nice little taxing cost on people.
Absolutely.
A lot of times in late games, you can see people casting multiple spells. This slows them down a lot because you cast the 1 spell, it's an extra 2 mana. You don't cast another spell, that's already 4 extra mana that they're having to dump into a turn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so if you're playing like a deck that's kind of taxing people and stuff like that,
this card is definitely.
I think it's pretty decent.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it does have a high mana cost, but
it is affecting the late game.
Yes,
and casting multiple spells a turn is very powerful. And when we get into that late game, turn 8, turn 9, if you've hit all your land drops, you have a couple of mana rocks, like you have access to 12 or 13 mana. With this, that really changes the game.
I think so.
But the player controlling this still has access to all that mana, and that's how you win games.
There we go, yeah. Cast more spells. Next one here is kind of funny. It's a very weird card. It's called Ugin's Conjurant, and it's just X.
Just X.
Just X.
Yeah. For a spirit monk.
Yeah. The art's pretty cool. The monk does have Ugin's horns there.
Horns,
so,
yeah.
Ugin's Conjurant enters the battlefield with X1 counters on it. What makes this card bad is if damage would be dealt to Ugin's Conjurant while it has 1/1 counters on it, prevent that damage and remove that many +1/+1 counters. So you can keep blocking creatures, but it's going to keep getting weaker.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's some really cool way of like having a lot of proliferate effects in a deck, or you can like double +1/+1 counters and stuff like that. So I thought this would maybe be kind of like a cool card in some certain decks.
Maybe in the next set, they're going to print like an enchantment, sort of like in the same vein as Solemnity, that is like permanents can't have counters removed from them.
Yeah.
Which kind of shuts down Planeswalkers.
It does, yeah.
Actually, that's going to be one of my premonitions for the future. So, if that happens, I want credit for it.
And said here first. I think to wrap everything up, we just have some lands to talk about here.
That's right. Oh, yeah, Blast Zone.
Yeah.
This card is awesome. So, in colors that like blue or black, and even green, we like don't have a ton of options when it comes to destroying everything, like non-land permanents all at once, unless we want to get artifacts like Nevin Yeryl's Disc.
Yeah.
But Blast Zone is a land, and it enters the battlefield with a charge counter on it. You can tap it for a colorless mana, and you can pay XX and tap it to put X charge counters on Blast Zone. So when a card has a double X mana cost, that just means you have to pay into each X cost. And so if you pay 2 into X, it'll have 1 charge counter. If you pay 4 into X, it'll have 2 charge counters, etc. And the last part of Blast Zone is you can pay 3, tap, sacrifice Blast Zone, destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on Blast Zone. So Blast Zone always comes in with 1 charge counter, so you can't hit tokens.
A little bit of a downside.
A little bit of a downside. But, what's great about Blast Zone is because it's a land, it doesn't take up a slot in the removal part of your deck.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come into play tapped, so you can tap it for mana right away. And, you can always use it as a removal spell, and
always.
you can just get rid of and it's not X or less, it has to be X exactly, but I do think it's a very powerful land, just from the perspective of it doesn't take up a slot for something else in your deck. So I think we're going to be seeing a fair bit of Blast Zone. I think it might be like a Scavenger Grounds,
I think so as well.
Yeah.
Just because it doesn't take that slot in your deck. And then you can still like pay into X at your end step and then crack it on your main phase of your next turn. Get rid of some stuff.
I think if it came into play tapped, it would be unplayable.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then even it coming into play untapped, we can still tap it for mana if we just need a land, which is still great.
Yeah. Also, if it came into play tapped, I don't think there'd be enough room on the card to say Blast Zone comes into play tapped.
Yeah. It also, as we were saying before, it's sometimes hard to remove enchantments, so hitting all non-land permanents is so good.
Absolutely. And if you're playing blue or black or red, it's hard to get rid of enchantments. And usually the way that you have to do it is with colorless cards like artifacts or lands.
So throw this guy in there.
Yeah, just throw it in.
Yeah.
It's no big deal.
Why not?
It doesn't come into play tapped. Just throw it in, get foils, throw it in.
Yeah. All right, next land. Probably just mention this one. We have, I think we have 2 in a row here that are going to be
similar,
because they're both for the Super Friends style of deck.
Yeah, the first one is Karn's Bastion.
Yeah.
Karn's Bastion taps for a colorless, and you can pay 4 to tap it to proliferate. And we probably should have said this earlier, but if anyone's unclear about the proliferate ability,
all right,
proliferate is choose any number of permanents and or players, then give each another counter of each kind already there. So I think this mechanic originally came out in New Phyrexia, which was the second, Infect, which was the second, our second trip to Mirrodin.
Mm-hmm.
I played a lot of Limited during that time.
Jealous.
It was amazing. It was an amazing set. I wish I'd bought boxes.
Yeah.
But yeah, Proliferate is a very cool mechanic that I didn't think they were ever going to bring back, just because you can activate it and you get to choose any number of permanents or players.
So that's even like if you want to choose your opponent's permanents, go right ahead.
Yeah, you want to put counters on and in Commander, if you want to choose your opponent's planeswalkers or creatures and give them counters and say like, hey, I'm going to give you, if I give you these counters, will you not attack me on your next turn? You're just making deals.
There we go.
So Proliferate is a very powerful political mechanic as well.
Yeah, all the politics in there, it's great.
Yeah, I really like this card. And what was the other land that's
the other one
similar?
is Interplanar Beacon. So again, Super Friends deck just in there right away. Whenever you cast a Plainswalker spell, you gain a life. It does tap for a colorless, and then you can pay a colorless and tap this to add 2 mana of different colors. Spend this mana only to cast Plainswalker spells. So these are 2 lands right here. We have a lot of Plainswalkers in the sets. These are for those decks for Plainswalkers.
They're for those decks, plain and simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, one last card we want to talk about is Emergent Zone. I love the art on this card, by the way. Like we were talking about earlier, the orbs. I guess we both like orbs, just orbs destroying things. It taps for a colorless mana, and you can pay 1 and sacrifice Emergent Zone. You may cast spells this turn as though they had flash.
So that is cast spells.
Yeah.
Anything. I think that's really awesome because if you have a turn where you just want to kind of hold up some mana, I think this works really well in the control style decks. You can leave up your counter spells if anything happens. And then if you have a bunch of Planeswalkers you want to play, or some creatures, or maybe wipe the board for some reason,
and then rebuild right then and there.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Tap this, play any of those cards you can play as flash. Good to go.
Yeah, and we've seen this on other cards like Alchemist Refuge from Avacyn Restored, which is taps for a colorless, but you can pay a green and a blue, tap it. You may cast non-land cards this turn as though they had flash. Or like what's that artifact that's very expensive now?
Oh, Vidalcan Orrery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But this card it's sort of like the threat of that. You know, when
Yeah.
somebody has Vidalcan Ore out, you just, you know, or like a Leyline of Anticipation, you know that they can cast anything at instant speed. With this,
So-
it's like, I might cast something at instant speed. You know, it's like, hey, he didn't tap that Emergent Zone for mana.
Yeah.
What's he going to do? All his other mana's untapped. What's he going to do? So pay attention to that.
Yeah. I think that's a fun, tricky little card.
Oh, yeah.
If you're looking for some other utility lands, keep this one in mind, because I think it can do some fun things for you.
For sure.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, those, I think, are all the cards that had interest for us
For sure, yeah.
from this set. Obviously, there's a lot of other cards that we could spend a lot more time talking
2 hours
about.
talking about
Yeah.
it. But yeah, like we talked about a lot of the cards that are really going to make an impact, mainly in Commander.
Right.
A lot of the cards we didn't talk about are commons, a bunch of the uncommons, a lot of like limited stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I think this limited format will be grindy,
yes,
and so, therefore I will participate in it quite a bit.
yeah,
And we can talk about that on future episodes.
for sure.
All right, let's wrap up the show. Thank you all so much for listening. On the next episode, we'll be talking about my first Commander deck. We're doing a deck tech. If you'd like to get in touch with us and let us know what you like about the show and what you don't like, and any questions you have for us, you can find us on YouTube at Turn One Soul Ring, on Gmail at Turn One Soul Ring the podcast at gmail.com, and on Instagram at Turn One Soul Ring _ the podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at Command Beacon. And Eric, do you have anything to plug?
Nothing to plug yet.
Still not on the social media, huh?
Yeah.
You got to get an Instagram account, man.
We'll be getting there.
So I periodically do giveaways on my Command Beacon Instagram account, and I think we'll be doing monthly giveaways on our podcast Instagram starting next month. So it'll probably just be packs to start out with, but we might eventually do bundles or like supplementary products like the spellbook. That's always
yeah.
a fun thing.
Cool art and stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have a good night.
Turn one soul ring.